right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first official Daily Stampede pregame show on the road. I'm your host, Nathan Bond, joined with Seth Varnadore. It's 11:16 on the dot. Seth, we're going to be playing football in like 45 minutes, man.
Yeah, we got a nice little early start for a change. Little lunchtime game. Had a nice brunch for pregame. You got to do. I'm sure a lot of people did that. So
Yeah, brunch
first early one of
responsibly.
the year. That's right. That's right. It seems like from what the boots on the ground in Louisville that there may have been a few people needing to eat a lot this morning to kind of soak some things up. But
Yeah,
should
man.
be a fun. Should be an interesting game.
Yeah, it should be fun. Lots to go over. We'll probably do this for about 30 minutes before kickoff. Every road game that we're not at, so every road game pretty much, unless we splurge. But USF faces Louisville, ACC Network, ESPN Plus, ESPN3 at noon Eastern. As we found out on Tuesday, that Louisville, Kentucky is in the Eastern time zone. So again, real good job by them. To be in the Eastern time zone. I think the theme for this week is, the podcast was Don't Poop the Bed. The theme is, it's okay. I don't know. I want to preface this. It's not like losing sucks. Losing is not fun, but it is okay. You're not quite there yet, but if you just absolutely go out there and get waxed, there's going to be issues. 1-3 coming off of 2 close losses looks a lot better than just wasting the basically all of last week with a poor performance.
Yeah, I think you've built as much as you can in a loss. You've built a ton of momentum up last week, and you can either keep that going into the conference slate with a win or a playing well again today. But if you come out and blow it, and it looks more like week one than last week, then all that momentum you generated is just gone, and we're kind of back to where we were after the Howard game, which was, not super excited and kind of down. So
Right.
you got to keep it going. I think that's just another sign of growth for this team, where they've had in the past where they've played really well one week against quality opponents, and then they come out the next week and kind of lay an egg or just play really poorly. So just seeing them play with some consistency week to week would be a big sign of a growth. I think when we did our kind of preseason, talk, it was a lot of kind of that was one of my things. What does success look like? It's being consistent from week to week would be nice. Like that to me, that's the hallmark of having a successful season. So we'll see if that is able to happen this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Davian Benito saying that the game's gonna be on Bally Sports. I didn't know that. Did you know that? I thought it was ACC Network. Maybe it's a bit of combination of the both. I'm not entirely sure.
I have no idea.
Huh.
Yeah, I was gonna check Watch ESPN, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's get down. We'll get down to the bottom of that. Let's take a look.
We'll get down to the bottom of it. Will Turner of Bulls 24/7 posted the travel roster for the Bulls. Not too many surprises. Daquan Evans did not travel. Joe did travel, even though he's going to be out for an extended period of time. That's an interesting one. But the one that I kind of found interesting was Jabril Glaze, who was a one-time USF commit, and then he signed with Virginia Tech, and then went to Hines Community College as a bounce back, then went to North Alabama, and then actually was at Arkansas State during spring and transferred out. Found a home back where it all started with the Bulls, and he's eligible, and he's traveling, and he traveled last week to Gainesville as well. So I did go back to last week's media stuff. Jabril Glaze was not listed, so we had no idea that he was even on the roster until I was perusing on Wednesday night, just kind of looking at stuff. So this guy's 6'3", 311 pounds. He's played a lot of college football. He's listed as a junior, which sure. So allegedly 2 more years of this guy, but he was good enough to play at Virginia Tech and play at some FBS schools. I think that's going to be a shot in the arm once he kind of gets his feet under him with the Bulls here.
He was the player to be named later in the Clyde Pender loss, I guess. So
yeah,
that's where he came from. Looking at on ESPN, it says the game's going to be broadcast on ESPN3. So I think that's kind of what we thought. Not ACC Network, but on ESPN3. So should be able to be accessed. I think that's what you said on Tuesday. So I don't think that's changed. One thing that speaking of the roster. There's some concern at receiver, it seems like. Have you seen this kind of going around this morning?
No. Oh, enlighten me.
So, there's just I know. Let's see if I can find Will's tweet here. He's kind of the radio broadcast just said there's going to be a different look at receiver today. They put that out. I think Derek Sharp may have said that just shortly a little while ago. Logan Berryhill was at safety last week, right? And he's back at receiver. USF Terry changed his number, right?
Yep.
Why did he change it? Because another receiver got 19.
Yep. Javon Thomas.
So that kind of leads you to believe maybe some of these guys aren't ready. I heard rumblings or Weaver might have an issue, but like a hamstring issue. I think Will Turner reported that on Bulls 24/7. So is it him? Is it Horn being out, or is it just that they're adjusting the travel roster with the Joe not being able to play? So there could be some guys out of receiver, it seems like, with all that shuffling going around. So that's definitely something to watch for, and that would be something that would obviously be detrimental to your team today. Now,
it would not be great.
It would not. We've got some numbers here, so it wouldn't be the worst thing against this Louisville team. Alex, we did pregame shows last year as well.
Yeah, Alex, where the hell were you?
Yeah.
Where were you, man?
So here we go. Let's look at some numbers here. Here's a uniform matchup. Bulls going all white again, and then Louisville's going red helmets, red tops, white pants.
Can we do a quick zoom in?
Yes, we can try. Where would we like to zoom in on?
Just in general.
A general zoom in?
General zoom in.
Yes, we can try.
I know. That'll work. We can scroll. That's fine.
All right, you're good with that?
Yeah, I can actually see the numbers now. Man, I may need to go get my eyes checked. I don't know. Yikes.
I thought it was all right the first time, so maybe. So here we go. We'll look at this is obviously USF here. All right, that should be enough here. The bottom is just the team talent. So you look at the team talent, not too far off here. USF 65 with an 84.39 overall player average. Louisville 60th with an 85.32. There's the Louisville uniform there. There's the USF uniform. But let's look at the numbers actually on the season. The left side is USF. The right side is Louisville. Yards per play, pretty similar on offense and defense. Neither of these, it's kind of, these teams are somewhat mirror mirror images of each other.
Right.
Yards per play. The yards per play on offense are pretty similar defensively. Neither team's great. Available yard. Now the available yards percentage is going to be a little bit different for USF because this is okay. So I guess Will's reporting Jimmy Horn's not playing. So there you go. So maybe that came out on the radio as well. That's what they were referring to. So receivers going to be looking different, but the available yards percentages is basically how much.
Okay. Hold up. No Weaver, Horn, or a Joe today per Derek Sharp, Joffrey, Marion Dawson, and then from the group of Yusuf Terry, Logan Berryhill, Holden Willis, Sincere Brown, Daquan Stanley. There are your pass catchers. Tight end Gunnar Greenwald could get more looks, which would help some fantasy teams. But, man, that is a blow for the Bulls. If you're just joining us, once again, no Xavier Weaver or Jimmy Horn or Joe today, according to Derek Sharp, who is on the radio team for the Bulls.
Well, that's what they were. I guess that's what they were referencing when they said we're going to be a different look at receiver today. All right, here, I'll throw this one up for you because I think that probably takes precedence right now. Let's get Derek's tweet up here. So there you go. No Weaver, Horn, or a Joe. Basically what Nathan just read off, but that changes some things. What's the positive, if there is a positive, right? There's probably not a ton, but Louisville's really bad rush defense. We're going to be in a lot of 12 personnel like you were against Florida. That's one thing against Florida. They were in a lot of 2 tight end sets. So that's kind of what they could probably roll that same kind of playing in today. Yeah, run game it is. Yeah, I think you're going to see
you're
that.
Get a healthy heaping of Brian Battie. If Jaron Mangum can go with his ankle, a lot of Mikey Dukes.
Yeah, and then you've got guys like Sincere Brown came in. I think it was week 1. We were highlighting how well he was blocking out on the edge there. So you've got some guys, and he's allegedly a 23-mile-per-hour runner. So maybe maybe you can get him over the top, right? He's a guy that's they've had good things to say, but obviously he's been kind of behind some really good players. But you still have some talent at the receiver position. Chaffee Brown showed some speed and some run after the catch against Florida. Dollison played pretty well against Florida, besides that one play that we can't tell if it was his fault or the throw's fault. And then you've had guys. Holden Wilson's played a ton already this year. Yusuf Terry's played the last couple of years.
Sean Atkins season, baby.
Sean Atkins is Mr. Reliable. I think he caught 4th down against Howard. Had a beautiful throw on the 2-point conversion. So obviously not ideal, but I think there are other positions. Receiver, if you had to pick one, receiver would be one you'd be okay. I'm all right with a couple injuries there just because we do have some depth at that position. There's other positions where you would definitely be the Simon Cowell gif right here. So
yes.
But still, nonetheless, that could be why. And let's get back to the numbers here. This game opened at 13 and a half. It has climbed now to 14 and a half, 15, and I've seen 15 and a halves in some places. So we'll scroll to the top here just in terms of the line. I'll zoom out a little bit for that. So in terms of the line, it's currently the consensus line, or the line. This is the line on DK or DraftKings. USF's plus 14 and a half. But looking at the bets and the handle percentage, so what percentage of actual bets are being made and what percentage of the money is being bet. So this isn't always indicative of like what side you should be on, but it just kind of tells you. So on Wager Talk, they kind of have, I'm not sure exactly where they get it from, but I think it's a wide variety. But 61% of bets on Louisville, 81% of the money is on Louisville. So the people that are betting more money are betting Louisville, and that could be they could have had some information on the receiver room, and that's why it could be climbing. Like I said, I've seen it at 15 and a half in some places. Over-unders at 64. Looks like they're trying to get you to bet the over because people are starting to bet the under, and you see the money line USF plus 460 there. So, but we were talking about the numbers a little bit before kind of the injury news came, and Louisville's really bad on run defense. So that kind of, with the injury news, that kind of bodes well for USF, I would think, being able to run the ball. So let's get into these here. So there we go. That's better. We'll move ourselves out of the way here.
Look at
that. So we were talking about available yards when the kind of the news came down. That's just how many if you're at the 25, right, after a touchback, you have 75 available yards offensively or defensively. So what percentage of those do you pick up typically? If it was 100%, you'd be scoring touchdowns every time. The USF numbers are a little skewed here because the guy that does these doesn't do 1AA games, so he doesn't do games against FCS teams, and he doesn't do garbage time, right? So that's basically 1 3/4 of USF's games, or 3 are filtered out. So this is not that number is probably not super indicative, but Louisville's all their games have kind of been in range, so you can kind of get a pretty good idea. You don't want to really be negative in available yards, and they are. So third down, I thought was kind of interesting. Again, these teams are mirror images of each other somewhat, and that neither have been great on third downs offensively. USF was really good last week. If they can continue that obviously puts them in position to win a lot more games. Defensively, the number's not great either, but it's a lot better than what it's been. So you somewhat feel good having a third down defense that's under 40% compared to the last couple of years.
Just barely, but it's under.
That's right. We're under there.
Under is under, baby.
That's right. And then explosive plays, I think, are always super important. Louisville's a little bit above average. USF's a little bit below average. But defensively, Louisville is really bad at giving up explosive plays. They've given up 21 already this year, which is good for 122nd in the country. And Louisville's also been bad at turning the ball over so far this year with a -4 turnover margins. Now, sometimes that will regress, but sometimes that's a season-long thing that you don't really see that regression until the next year. So is Louisville kind of turnover prone? I think in their losses they have
been. I said this on the podcast this week. I think I said it in the film room. Louisville is 2-5 over the last year in 3 games. When Malik Cunningham throws an interception, they're 0-2 this season. When he does so, he's thrown 3 interceptions in those 2 losses. It's starting to look like Syracuse is actually pretty good as they moved to 4-0 last night. After they did blow a 16-point lead versus Virginia last night, but we're able to kind of come back. I think Garrett Schrader and Sean Tucker are actually legitimate like college quarterbacks and running backs and high-end talent. And I think we see this is going to be a little tangent, but I think we see even Tommy DeVito at Illinois is halfway decent. So maybe it really was just Sterling Gilbert holding everyone back. So you get rid of him and the offense kind of takes off, and Syracuse is 4-0 for the first time in a long time. So good for them. Good for Dino, because it looked like he was going to be on his way out.
Yes.
So
he needed it.
He really did. But USF's been pretty capitalistic on turnovers on defense.
Yeah, they've been able to kind of go down and get points off of them and get yourself in pretty good field position. I know that was kind of the Howard game. That was kind of I think that you got 3 turnovers and you got a touchdown off each one, right? I believe is what the
correct
number was. So you got 21 points off turnovers in that game. This is I think these teams. Again, USF, the way they played last week, if they play like that this week, you think they'd have a pretty good chance to win, but it's all about that consistency. But if they can generate turnovers, these are kind of the stats that I think the first 2 yards per play and available yards and third downs kind of give you an idea who the team is. The last 2, I think, the last 3 are important in terms of these are the stats. If you win these stats, I think you win the game. More often than not, right? If you win the explosive play battle, if you win the turnover battle, and these are kind of tied into each other a little bit, and then the average starting field position. If you win those 3 things, you're going to win the game, I think, a lot more often than not. So this is kind of just to give you a look at, okay, can USF win those 3 battles? And it seems like they can, right? Without how bad Louisville has protected the ball, how many explosive plays their defense has given up. USF's given up a bunch too. So it's kind of about seeing who's going to win these 3. If you win all 3 of those, if you're USF, I think you win the game. But it's kind of difficult to know if they're going to be able to kind of come out and play well and be able to do that.
Eric, I believe Christian Williams is back this week. Seemed like all signs were pointing toward yes. Quick update on Weaver from Derek Sharp. Weaver is banged up, and as of earlier this morning, was not expected to play. It appears he's going to give it a go, which is obviously a boost, but he will not be full speed. He is out there warming up. On the flip side, conversely, Jimmy Horn and JoJo did not suit up today. So 75% of Weaver, 60% of Weaver. Is a compromised Weaver better than 100% of Holden Willis or Yusuf Terry? That's kind of the trade-off we may be getting here.
Yeah, I think this game is important, I think, but it's not more important than next week. So
Right.
if it's close and you have to hold guys out, to me, I don't think that's a bad thing. If Jimmy Horn not playing this week means he's going to be 100% healthy next week, to me that's an okay trade-off, especially with and this could be part of their thinking too. Maybe their game plan is just to pound Louisville like they did Florida last week. So how much Jimmy Horn do we need? Maybe we don't need as much, as we may have with a different game plan. So
right.
That'd be kind of the thinking on Weaver. Weaver's really important, obviously, because he's that backside guy that they like to get manned up a lot, or just kind of into the boundary where it's more one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. It's not, to me. It's not worth risking any of these guys for this game rather than the conference slate. Which
right.
Now this game's important because if you win it, I think you put yourself on a path to maybe making a bowl game.
Right.
But you can still win. I think you can still win 4 games in conference if you have, or you have a chance to win 4 games in conference if you have everybody healthy. So I think that's a little more important. But we'll see. I'm sure they are not going to be flippant with it. I'm sure if he can play, it's a pain management thing, not a thing where he can make it worse.
Right. I worry about making it worse. I mean, at this point, like as you mentioned, this game's not really as important as maybe the last 8 games of the season are. But you gotta, it's such a delicate balance with these sort of injuries, right? It could be a hamstring. It could be, something soft tissue, a weird tweak, you try to burst and and then it just pops and you're done for the year, or you're done for 4 weeks. So
look at Joe last week. Just in warm-ups, pulls his groin. And he had been kind of dealing with some stuff. Goes out in warm-ups, pulls his groin. He's out for a while. So, is it worth it? I don't know. But you would imagine with how important Weaver is that they're being cautious with it, right?
Right. I don't think sacrificing, his body for one non-conference win is the best idea at the moment. I think that's probably pretty clear. As you mentioned earlier at the top, on the paper, the wide receiver room is built to withstand this sort of attrition due to injury. But I think we're at the okay, let's pump the brakes here, guys. There's only so many of us. We've got a guy who played corner last week coming back to wide receiver. So let's Jordan Smith may be running out there playing wide receiver soon. He may be going.
Here's points for Stieg. He was playing the long game the whole time.
I don't even know if he traveled. I'll be honest. It's gonna be real tough for you to score if you don't travel.
He did not travel.
Yikes! So there's that.
Yeah.
What's the outside of the obvious third downs explosive plays? Is there a matchup? Is there something that you're excited to see what USF does or what Louisville does in this sort of chess match as we're 20 minutes to kick?
I really think can USF run the ball on Louisville like everybody else has been able to? If they can, that obviously, if you're worried about Malik Cunningham and kind of keeping him contained, well, don't let him have the ball, which USF did perfectly last week against Florida. Really held the ball, dictated the tempo of the game, was able to get themselves into third and manageables and constantly convert. So I think that's obviously the big thing, especially with the receivers out. Can you run the ball on this bad Louisville rush defense? Because if you can, that opens up some easy throws off play action and stuff like that, that even without your best receivers, you should be able to take advantage of. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And then defensively, I think it is just about explosive plays, because explosive plays are like 20-yard plays. Make Louisville, don't let Cunningham run
Right.
all over the place. Make him complete passes down the field. and make him be consistent in the passing game, because he's a little feast or famine throwing the ball. There'll be times where he looks awesome and he's just great, and there'll be other times where he's off and it doesn't really come back the whole game. So I think if you can kind of make him just slowly move the ball down the field to score on you, that's kind of going to be the plan.
And I think we saw, at least last week for sure, when Florida had to put a full ass drive together, they couldn't really do it. And I think that's a testament to the defense's, level of where they're at, knowing that if they don't give up the deep shot, that there's a pretty good chance that they can compete with other guys. It's giving up the deep shots. It's the 62-yard touchdown run at the start of the second quarter. It's the 75-yard touchdown run to start the game in week 1. It's those plays that's going to be absolutely backbreaking for USF. And Malik Cunningham is better. I think he's a better runner than a lot of the guys who broke off big plays against the Bulls.
Yeah, I think, and he's a different type of runner than Richardson last week. He's a lot more slippery and kind of make you miss in space. So you really got to have he's a guy that you almost have to have a lot of eyes on. So I wonder if we see more zone from USF this week, make them throw the ball into the zone, keep eyes on the quarterback. So that might be something we see in this game,
right?
Because if you can kind of keep him bottled up in the run game and just, hey, beat us throwing the ball. So I wonder if you see USF. This is kind of something as you're watching the game. See how hard USF is rushing the passer. Are their guys flying uphill, or are they kind of trying to keep him contained in the pocket? Sometimes against those guys that can run, you just push the pocket and just try to keep him in there.
Don't give him lanes. Don't give him escape alleys.
Just try to push the pocket on him. Don't try to pass rush and do 100 spin moves and all this stuff and open up a huge lane for him. So
I think this is going to be a telltale sign of growth for Eddie Kelly. I think the way he played Anthony Richardson was a very good sign. As you mentioned, slightly different runner, but I think Eddie Kelly, that's going to be a matchup, wherever he lines up, how he keeps the pocket kind of intact, so to speak, doesn't let Malik leak out or find those lanes up the middle as he drives upfield. That's gonna be one that I'm excited to see.
Yeah, and just looking at the travel roster again, USF traveled 4 tight ends, so I'm assuming you're going to see a lot of that 12 personnel group. So I would guess that's the plan. I'm not sure if they traveled the same amount last week, but you've got guys that have hardly played this year that are traveling here. So I think that's kind of what the plan is going to be. So expect a lot of 2 tight end stuff. I would assume we see more Bohannon in the run game like we did last week, and you just kind of sit with the run game and play action and kind of go from there. But it should be I think this game will tell us the tough part is that you haven't really been able to work on your passing game too much, which is kind of like the last piece of the puzzle going into conference play, because these guys haven't been able to practice either. So after the Howard game, we're like, if they can just get this timing down, and then Jimmy Horn doesn't practice all week last week, I'm sure the guys didn't practice a ton this week. So unfortunately, you haven't been able to get that down, but rely on the running game, keep Cunningham in the pocket, make him beat you as a passer. And if he does that, you kind of just tip your cap to him. I think Louisville is without their running back. He's still injured, I believe, and will not play. So they're going to have to rely on Cunningham. If you can kind of keep him somewhat contained, you've got a chance. But we'll see. Can they repeat the performance from last week?
We'll be back at halftime of this game, and then we'll do a post-game show. I may be doing it from the road as I'm heading to the Rays game after the game. So that'll be fun. I wanted to do, 5 seconds, 10 seconds here. Seth, you had picked Louisville to win 38-24 on the podcast. Are you sticking with that, or are you changing your mind here?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with it. And that was when it was the 13.5-point line. So, I'm going to stick with that for now. To me, it's not necessarily about Louisville. It's more about I got to see USF do this twice in a row.
Right.
They've shown the ability to come up one week and play and get up really high and play awesome for a week. But before I pick them to cover and play super competitively, I got to see it twice in a row. Now, if I had if I was a betting man and I had like 20 extra bucks I wanted to throw on the game, USF money line might be intriguing at plus 460, right? I think there is a possibility they win this game, but if I got to bet, I'm just gonna go with what I've seen more of the last 3 years, and that's USF getting up for one game and then kind of folding the next week. So hopefully I'm wrong, but I'm gonna stick with it.
Yep. And I'm sticking with mine. I picked Louisville to win 42-20. I'll echo your sentiments here. Prove it 2 weeks in a row. Don't poop the bed. That's really what it boils down to. Don't poop the bed in this game. You coming out of week 2, you honestly didn't have a shot at being 2-2, and now there's a legitimate chance. There's a feeling that maybe you can be 2-2 coming out of non-conference play. When, I think everybody would have pegged you to be 1-3. Prove to me you can do it, and we'll talk next week about what you can and can't do in the future of this season. But that's it for us. See you at halftime.
Don't watch the crappy ESPN halftime show. Come here. We'll be talking about it.
We'll be talking about it. Follow us on Twitter, Stampede SBN, Bulls Nathan SBN, at Seth Varnadore. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. We'll give you great coverage throughout. And have fun. Drink responsibly. Behave.
Yeah.
Listen to your friends who tell you maybe you shouldn't drink that last beer. Don't share beers. Go Bulls. Have fun.
Go Bulls. We'll see you at halftime.